Most people, when they're communicating, they're thinking about their message, how they're going to sound, what they're going to put out there. But a big part, if you're doing that, whether it's for a client meeting, an important conversation with someone on your team, you're giving a big presentation at a conference, is to think about that audience. What's important to them? What's motivating them? What do ultimately you want them to think, feel, do differently after your communication? So as you start with that, then kind of work backwards to start crafting your message, writing it out, outlining it, things like that. And then as you are delivering it, to be mindful of the other person and to listen to them, not just with your ears, but also with your eyes.
Yeah.
Am I noticing some signals in body language? Am I getting very short responses from them? Are they just seeming to tune out? And being able to adapt, whether it's your pace, your tone a little bit, or you might realize I need to pivot a little bit on my message strategy where I'm way too big picture for this audience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Scott D'Amico, who is the president at Communispond. Scott, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to our conversation.
100%. Let's get straight to it. I would love for you to start off just by telling everyone a little bit more about you, about Communispond, what you guys are all about, who you help, and any further context that you want to share about the company.
My pleasure. Well, once again, my name is Scott D'Amico. I have the privilege of serving as the president of Communispond. And really, in some way, shape, or form, I've spent my entire life in the education and training and development space. Starting as a student, moving on to my first career as a high school teacher, working in the classroom, and then really the better part of the last 20 years in corporate education and training and development. And about seven and a half years ago now, I had the privilege of joining Communispond, which is a global communication skills training organization. We work with individuals and teams and companies all across the world to really help equip their employees with the skills to communicate with clarity, conciseness, and confidence to ultimately drive results at their organizations. Thoroughly enjoyed my time here. I've got to learn a lot. I've got to interact with some really amazing people, and then also just continue to develop my own skills as I've learned around our teachings and got to experience some of our programs and practice some of those skills. And for me, the thing that really gets me excited about what we do is that it's so transferable. Everything that you're learning can apply to your work life, can apply to your home life with your partner, your spouse, your kids, your friends. They really cut across every single thing that we do in our day-to-day lives. And it's just fantastic to get to help people enhance those skills.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think communication is one of the things that I'm very passionate about. One thing that I always want to improve on as much as I can. I actually, back in the day, this is like last year. I don't know why I said that. Last year, I started even just recording myself and talking and just talking. Literally just going out on walks, recording myself talking, and just really flourishing or attempting to improve and listen back to what I was saying. But I know that is just like one way, like feedback and auditing how you communicate is one way of doing it. But what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes people make when they are trying to improve their communication? Maybe I was making a huge mistake by doing that. So talk to me a little bit more about what you see is a very common practice or a very common tip, advice that you see. You're like, oh, that's actually not what you should be doing at all.
We're definitely on the right track with recording yourself. Awareness and self-awareness is a big part of it. As I think about effective communication, one of the biggest things that you really need to focus on is your audience. Most people, when they're communicating, they're thinking about their message, how they're going to sound, what they're going to put out there. But a big part, if you're doing that, whether it's for a client meeting, an important conversation with someone on your team, you're giving a big presentation at a conference, is to think about that audience. What's important to them? What's motivating them? What do ultimately you want them to think, feel, do differently after your communication? So as you start with that, then kind of work backwards to start crafting your message, writing it out, outlining it, things like that. And then as you are delivering it, to be mindful of the other person and to listen to them, not just with your ears, but also with your eyes.
Yeah.
Am I noticing some signals in body language? Am I getting very short responses from them? Are they just seeming to tune out? And being able to adapt, whether it's your pace, your tone a little bit, or you might realize I need to pivot a little bit on my message strategy where I'm way too big picture for this audience. They want the granularity, or I'm too granular. I need to zoom out a little bit and get to the big picture with them. So I think being aware is one thing. Then, as you mentioned, right, you need to start to practice. There's an adage of practice makes perfect, which you need to make sure, one, you're practicing right. And when it comes to communication, I don't think there is ever a perfect. You're always going to be refining it. So it's this idea of practice makes progress. Recording yourself is a great way to do that. You're going to pick up on little things, some tone, some pace. You're going to pick up on, do I say a lot? And then it's figuring out, okay, what can I do to practice eliminating those types of things or slowing down? So a lot of what we teach really is around that. It's very specific things that you can do to slow your pace, to bring your nerves down, to eliminate those filler words so you come across as being much more confident in your communications.
That's awesome. And I really like that you also mentioned the intonation and the body language that happens in there, because it's such a huge part of communication that people don't appreciate enough. They just think it's, hey, get rid of the get rid of the us, get rid of the awkward silences. But there's so much more to it than that. And I wanted to hear from you. With all the companies that you guys work with, Scott, have you found that there is a huge misinterpretation from the companies to their teams internally, but also to their clients, in a way that they think they understand what the audience is all about? They think they know their problems. They have this misconception, but they don't actually know. It's this preconceived thought of, here's who our audience is, here's what we think they care about, here's what we think we can help them with, as opposed to here's what they actually need. Have you found that to be a recurring pattern at all, or not many times?
We have seen that sometimes, the disconnect between the clients and their audience. And a big part of that comes in some of our persuasion and sales dialogue types of programs, where we want to put the focus in on the client, what's most important to them. Because as salespeople, right, I come out of a sales background. As salespeople, right, we have goals, we have an agenda, and it's very easy to fall into the trap of, all right, today I'm going to tell you all about Communispond and all the great things that we're doing. And I list them all off, right? We're global, we have this, we have virtual, we have all this experience. And I could spend 15, 20 minutes in a client conversation talking about things that really aren't relevant to that particular client's need. They may say, well, that's great, Scott, but I'm a regional company. Global doesn't matter to me, right? I only want in person. I don't care that you guys can do these things virtually. So it is stopping and saying, I've prepared today to talk to you all about Communispond and what we have to do. But before we do that, I want to hear from you. What's most important to get out of this conversation today? Let them talk, zip your lips, and actually listen, and don't plan what you're trying to say next. And then the other component to be able to do that is effective preparation. I need to have prepared enough to know enough about the company, the contact, the industry, some potential challenges they may be facing. So I have a list of questions I already have prepared to fall back on in case I need them. Having that list and having that preparation done really allows me to lock in and listen.
Listen. I think that's something that people just often forget to do.
And it's a novel idea, but it works.
Yeah, it's so funny, because especially with sales, now that you brought it up, I think it's such a recurring theme of, hey, I just want to sell you this thing, get this product over to you, sell. But there's often a lack of listening, a lack of understanding of what they're actually needing and what is important to them. As you were saying before, again, understanding your audience. Do you think that the training that happens internally, maybe in that sales lens right now, it's always focused on the goals, the quotas, and everything else, as opposed to really transferring and communicating in the right way the value that you can, or maybe you can't, bring to these people?
I think it's more so of a cultural issue at organizations, right? And to your point, if everything that you're hearing from leadership is about quotas, numbers, quotas, where are you at? Are you 3X pipeline? Do you have this? You're going to start to get those transactional conversations that are happening, because the sales reps are going to start pushing for, how can I move this along as fast as possible, and not necessarily thinking about what's most important for the client. So And I've been in sales organizations before where it was like that. And I would be in with a rep on a client call and they just blow right past a great opportunity because they heard one little thing that they wanted to latch onto because they thought it'd be maybe the quickest nearest term win. But when you're doing that, you're missing out on, I think, a much bigger slice of the pie by not really listening to
Mm-hmm.
what the client is sharing.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very interesting. It's always nice. I always like to have the insider perspective, the insider knowledge there. And I'm wondering, with communication, there's always such a broad view, a broad connotation. People define communication in many different ways, and it holds values in different ways to different people. How challenging is it for you guys to be able to convey that value to people you are working with, possible our current clients, but also possible clients in the future, and kind of deliver or demonstrate that ROI that they will get from implementing something like communication training internally?
One of the big things, as I touched on a little bit earlier, communication is so universal and important in our lives that a lot of organizations do get it. They realize that our sales team going out and not being able to effectively deliver the value prop or to hold an effective client conversation, or they get that we're losing so much time internally because of ineffective communication. Project deadlines are slipping. Misunderstandings are happening because of poor email communication, right? You get a dissertation with an email. Nobody knows what you want them to do. What's the message here?
Yeah.
So I think companies do realize that. It's really incumbent upon us then to go out and have those conversations around, what are the challenges that ineffective communication are having at your organization, and then what's the ripple effect, right? What business outcome is this impacting? And from a sales perspective, if you think about it, companies typically make purchasing decisions for one of five reasons. It's impacting one of five things: productivity, income, expenses, their reputation, or the safety and security of their employees.
Mm.
So if you think through that lens, communication in some way, shape, or form is going to impact all of them.
Yeah.
Depending on who you're talking to at an organization, it's going to impact their lever, so to speak, a little bit more than others. So if I'm talking to sales, right, that's income, right? I'm going to be thinking about how can ineffective communication impact income.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm talking to marketing, how is this going to impact reputation? So kind of thinking through that lens of here's why organizations make purchasing decisions. Then you layer on top of that, why do people want to do business with other people? It's typically because not only they like them, but they feel that they can trust them.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're having those client-centric conversations around what's most important to you, I want to be respectful of our time. I want to make sure that what I'm sharing with you is going to help you to be successful. That's where we get the winning combination where I've built the relationship and the rapport with the buyer, and then I've provided the value and I've provided the information that will help them determine, yes, this is going to impact what I'm looking for it to do.
XYZ on the back end. That makes sense. And is there a specific, are there like specific characteristics that the perfect, I'll just call it the dream customer for you guys have? So like, hey, whenever we have that working relationship, they always do this one thing. They always follow through on these steps. These combined steps or the combined actions allow them to succeed in the way that they always want to, as opposed to the ones that try to get the value, but are never able to reach for goals.
I think it's the difference between a client that is looking to check a box with training. It's like, okay, we offered this, we gave our people some communication skills training. Good, check, done, move on. Next, versus the clients that really are looking for behavioral change. They look at training as a way to change behaviors at their organization because they realize the new behaviors are going to lead to some sort of result that they want. So I'd say that's the biggest difference.
Interesting. The new behavior is going to lead to the results that they want. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and how they perceive that when having conversations with you to implement that internally?
If I think of, say, a sales leader, and if a sales leader's out and they are attending client meetings and the sales reps are in essence just I don't know if this is the right word, but they're just selling, right? They're out there, they're just pitching and hoping something sticks versus having those consultative, client-centric discovery meetings. If I'm a sales leader and I realize that my people are just trying to make something stick, we get clients, they churn, we might not be the right fit for them, or they're not happy that they didn't get what they were expected. Versus if you're having those true consultative conversations, you're going to build champions at these organizations. You're going to build fans. So for me, the new behavior of being able to have a effective discovery conversation that's focused on the client's needs and then aligning our solutions back to those needs and the results that they're going to bring, that behavior is going to lead to sustained increased revenue for my company, which is, as a sales leader, what I'm shooting for.
Awesome. And do you think it all stems from that awareness that they need that behavior change? Of course, if they don't see it, then they're not going to try to improve it. So I kind of just answered my own question there. My bad. That's one. But also then having the trust that you guys will be able to change that for them internally, because, hey, we've had training in the past. We've always done it this way. How would you be any different? So it's just that awareness plus the identification of here's what we need, and then trusting you to actually achieve that for them.
Do you think it comes through on our side, those initial discovery conversations that we have? So we practice what we teach. Yeah. So in our sales meetings, we're going through with our Socratic openers and the value links and the dialogue that we want to do. And we're looking at, okay, what's your current state? What's your desired state? Yeah. Right? We're in between. Here's how we help you. And then if you hit that desired state, what does it look like? What does it mean for you as the sales leader, as the marketing leader, whatever it may be? So kind of really understanding that. And then for us, it's making sure that they have a very clear understanding of our teaching style and our teaching methodology, where it's not theory. It's very much practice-based with a learn, practice, apply model, where we're going to apply it to what we call, their world situations, where they might bring in a presentation that they're working on that they have to deliver in a meeting coming up. Or they're going to bring in a client scenario that they've experienced before. And we're going to apply those skills and practice those skills on those types of scenarios so that they're going to see the immediate benefit. They're going to receive the coaching. They're going to receive the feedback in real time so that they see the change. And the analogy that I always give is, if you play some sort of sport, right? If you play golf and you're working with a golf pro, and you go out and you play around with them, right? You play 9, 18 holes. And after the 18th hole, you're frustrated, you're tired, you're sweaty. You've shanked all of your balls into the water or into the woods. And they say, if you just turn the club face a little bit in, right, you would be cranking them down the fairway. That's not very helpful advice once the round is done and I'm not in the mindset for it. But if on the first hole, on the first backswing, they stop me and say, Scott, remember we're talking about turn the club face in a little bit. I do that and I drill it down the fairway. What's the likelihood that on hole 2, I'm going to remember to adjust the club face? Very high. Yeah. So when you get that real time, immediate feedback to correct the behaviors, that's when it starts to stick.
Awesome. Very, very good. I love that insight. And I'd love to hear from you, Scott. I obviously don't know entirely what the goals are that you guys have for the company, but I'm assuming growth is a big part of that goal, a big part of those goals. When you're looking at the growth that you guys are trying to achieve, and I'll tie it to a question that I've been asking everybody that's been on the podcast. So looking at the growth, what do you think are some challenges that could get in the way of that? Maybe things that you guys face today, and tying it to the question that I ask everybody, which is, let's say you had a magic wand where you could just solve one of those challenges, an obstacle, something that always just keeps knocking on the door, whatever that might be. You solve that one thing, which I know that there are oftentimes many, but just one for this question. And then your growth goals can be achieved just like that. What's the one thing you'd like to solve in the company?
So I would say right now, the biggest barrier to growth is getting our message in front of people. When it comes to marketing, it's whether it's through email marketing, social marketing, organic, whatever it is, it's noisy. People are inundated with sales calls, with emails, prospecting emails, LinkedIn messages, LinkedIn ads, Google ads. Yeah. 4 million search results for training and development, right? There's so much out there. And then even just now with the way things are changing with email marketing and email deliverability. Getting something in front of somebody right now is the biggest challenge. I would say the biggest hindrance to growth. So for us, we're trying to lean more in on organic social marketing, kind of non-paid stuff, because that's where where we're going to get the right message in front of the right person at the right time.
Interesting. So just having those initial conversations, bringing them on, getting the opportunities to knock on the door, or as they're coming through. Sounds like
Getting the opportunities right, getting the at bat, getting the opportunity to be in front of someone to have that discovery conversation. What we found is typically once we have the meetings, discover what they need, present our solutions, the win rate is very high.
Yeah.
We've been around for 50 plus years. So we're fortunate we have a lot of great clients that we work with, a lot of great organizations that are referrals for us. We get tremendous feedback from the participants that we're able to share as examples. So once we have the conversation, it's great. Getting the conversation, I think most organizations right now that are in a services industry, that's one of the biggest challenges.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And final question that I have here for you, Scott, is actually not a question for me. It's a question from our last guest to you. And they had no idea who you were. So are you ready for the question?
Sure.
Here's the question that they wanted to ask you. If you could have made a change 5 years ago in your business that would have made an impact, what would that change be?
I would have started in on what we're doing now, what I just talked about, the organic marketing from search engine optimization and really getting consistent with social media posting on things like LinkedIn that are relevant to our audience. I would have gone heavy on that 5 years ago. I think those investments would paying dividends now. And I'm hoping, we've been doing it for a couple of years now. In a couple more years, we're going to continue to see the dividends. We're already seeing results from it. I think it's going to be that much more.
Awesome. Great stuff. Scott, thank you so much for your time. This has been such an awesome conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you or maybe a little bit more about the company?
Best place is LinkedIn. They can connect with me there, Scott D'Amico. The company is Communispond. You can go to our website. You can also find it on LinkedIn, but happy to connect. I routinely put out information with best practices around communication skills, whether it's blog posts, podcasts, thought leadership stuff. So if you're looking to develop your skills, want to learn more, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Scott, thank you so much for your time. And for everyone else that is still watching, I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.